Hello, everybody. How's it going tonight? Oh, I should probably take down the splash page. There we go. All right, here we go. Thanks for tuning in. Pardon me, sorry about that. Thanks very much for tuning in. We are getting ready to plan out an encounter. So, encounter building in D&D is always kind of fun. It's kind of like a puzzle where you don't know all the pieces. Because you're taking the monsters, you know their abilities, and you know how they probably should act given the scenario. And you take the encounter area with all of its terrain features and however they affect the game or the battle. And then you got the players, and you know their abilities, but you have no idea how they're going to try to use them. Because you might get someone who decides to, use a charm spell on the monster or something like that. Um, and so it can definitely go a number of different ways. You also have the fact that dice are involved, and it can be very easy for an encounter to swing wildly in one direction or the other as a result of some, fickle dice. So, as a DM, there's always that weird line of like, where does my job as a storyteller and a friend stop and my job as the person who is planning out challenging encounters begin. Um, and that's different for every DM and it's different for every group. Some groups really like, high difficulty, high risk encounters because then they get to use their characters to the absolute like best of their ability, just wringing every last little bit of efficiency out of all of their abilities and their spells and things like that. You've got other players who are more casual about it. They're like, "Oh, cool, we're getting into a fight. I can throw fireballs, and throwing fireballs is fun." And they never really explore anything past fireballs in the context of a combat. So, not really fully knowing how my players are going to approach it means that I just have to kind of take into consideration that I don't know everything about how they're going to react. So, you know, we'll see what we can do. Um, Having said that, we have to talk about this encounter. So I was ad-libbing during um, this past Sunday's episode of Ravensdale Roleplays, where I had Gark, the goblin bartender, talking to Samson's character Uzeth. Uzeth is the name. And was just kind of spitballing, tossing in some flavor here and there, and then pardon me, I made the mistake of saying that, there was this monster in the area and that Gark would be willing to trade for parts of that monster. And then I described a monster that flies and has a poison stinger and claws and breathes lightning because I am not always very smart when I'm, just kind of running with it. So now I have to come up with a monster that does all those things and meets the character's like challenge rating range. And so there are a couple ways I could go with this. I could either go with one creature, just have it be the monster itself, and have it be a relatively challenging encounter. For 3 second level characters, I think on average, one CR1 monster is probably a little bit on the easy side, if I remember correctly. Hold on a second. I thought I had this up, but I guess I don't. 5e encounters by level. There we go. That's the one I want. So it's saying for a solo monster, character levels are second, and there are 4 characters. It's saying a CR2 monster is a good idea. It's not really showing what we need because we need 3 characters. So let's pop down here a little bit. Yeah, it's saying for second level characters, 3 of them are equal to 1 CR1 monster. Casher says, and you have players like me who think, well, I should have save my big spells just in case there's another encounter where you need something really big. I just hoard them forever and never use them until one day when we're up against a single orc, I let loose. Yeah, that's definitely a thing. I think anybody who's played any of the Final Fantasy games on the consoles would probably know exactly what that's like. They save up all of their Phoenix Downs, and so at the end of the game, they've got 99 Phoenix Downs, and they've never used one to resurrect one of their characters because you never know when you might need a bunch of Phoenix Downs. And yeah, I have the same thing. I've had players or characters that I was playing who just hoarded healing potions or hoarded, magic arrows or whatever it was because you never know when you're going to run into something where they would really come in handy. Just as a pro tip, they will really come in handy in any encounter where they keep you from dying. So if you're like, hey, this encounter doesn't seem like it's the end boss, but it's still kind of tough, use it. Use your consumable items. Just trust me on this. Anyways, having said that, so we're looking at a CR1 monster, a single CR1 monster, if we decide to go that route. Now, we could instead do a group of monsters. It makes the encounter a little bit more dynamic, but it's more sources of damage, more targets they have to entangle with, and everything like that. I'm not really sure that this monster that I described would work in a team, so I feel like it's a solo hunter. I'm gonna try to find an individual monster that I can modify to do the job. Hang on a second. A grand student. I think I know you. Are you supposed to be watching this? To be fair, I'm like that in real life. Just ask my poor husband. A grand student. As long as you're not playing in my D&D game on, my monthly D&D Ravnica game, you're good. Okay. I do know you. You are playing in that game. You should not be watching this stream then. This is actually the stream where I plan out that campaign and I do adventure, all the encounter building and stuff like that. No problem. Thanks for tuning in at the very least. I appreciate it. Sorry I can't have you stick around, but feel free to, I don't know, mute the stream if you want to, chime in occasionally. Now, let's not banish anybody from the chat. But yeah, so we're gonna sit here and we're gonna take a look at a few different monsters that we might be able to kind of modify slightly. Now, sounds good. Thanks very much. All right, so one of the things that they offer in the Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, so there are actually these monsters called horrors, and they're a creature type in Magic the Gathering that this game is based off of. And these kind of fit the bill pretty well, except their challenge rating 3. So according to this, a challenge rating 3 monster would be equivalent to 6 level 3 characters. So that's not going to work. So there's another option where there's these thing called a Krasis, which is a kind of hybrid monster that the Simic Guild in Ravnica employs. And there are 3 categories of Krasis. They come in bigger sizes, basically. And you can they're built so that you can modify them and give them different traits and features and stuff like that. And their base challenge rating is 1. So they may be a good choice for this. I can pull up an image of So a Krasis in Magic the Gathering is basically any combination of different monsters, and I can't really zoom in here. So like this is a fish beast. It's a hammerhead shark with 4 legs and a big tail. So that's one example. You've got a few other more aquatic-based ones. So this is a fish mutant. You've got the... here we go. The shamble shark, which is a fish crab. So it's got the crab legs, and the upper torso is kind of like a shark with arms. Yeah, Krasis are kind of crazy. Exactly. A Krasis is it's literally just a type of creature that the Simic Guild will stitch together, kind of genetically stitch together from other animals. And usually they graft it onto the frame of a humanoid so that they can act as soldiers and stuff like that. Not always. Some are just purely animal. It just kind of depends. But as you can see there, the shark crab thing had arms and wielded weapons. So they're not all purely monstrous or bestial. Yeah, so the Simic, because they are kind of... one of their major colors is blue, as far as the Magic the Gathering color wheel goes. They have a heavy emphasis on aquatic creatures and that kind of general aesthetic. So yeah, that's definitely true. But I like the Krasis. I think I might go with them. But let's go ahead and take a look and see if there's anything else in the monster manual that's worthwhile. Specifically, the Krasis monsters in the Guildmaster's Guide, they don't include the breathing lightning ability, so that kind of, is a little bit weird. Actually, you know what? It's actually not that hard to modify, because in the description of the Krasis, one of the traits they can have is the ability to spit acid. And so that is... oh no, they've got acidic skin. Never mind, it's not an acid spit. They don't really have much in the way of range. I was just going to use the acid spit ability and modify that, but I don't think it's going to work so well. So instead, I have to figure something else out. What enemies have... does this do a search? No, it does not. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think so. Dang. One thing I could do is I could just grab the Dragonborn racial ability for a breath weapon and take the lightning version of that. It's relatively minimal damage, but it's a CR1 monster, and that really isn't meant to be its primary feature. It's kind of just there to give it some options while it's flying around overhead to kind of harass people. Awesome. So it's good that I've got you, or you've got me muted. So a grand student over here is actually suggesting... a Phyrexian Swarmlord, an insect horror. Now that's actually a pretty cool looking monster. It's more arachnid or insect looking than it is aquatic. I think we could definitely make use of that. So I think what I kind of want to do... hold on a sec. There are a lot of different horrors in Magic the Gathering. So they're these kind of abyssal, demonic, deformed things. They're very unnatural looking. So they're pretty scary things. There are definitely some stuff out there that we can model this off of. The trick right now is to find the mechanics that will kind of fit the character that the creature that I want. And from there, what I can do is I can actually toss up descriptive features that will kind of make it less of a crisis and more of a horror. So I think that's kind of the goal that I'm going to go with. But I do like these as inspiration. Those guys look really cool. So you know what? Hold on. Let me pull up the Dragonborn race and see how they work their breath weapon. So it's just DC is 8 plus con modifier plus proficiency bonus, and it's just 2d6 damage. I think that's perfect. Technically, these guys, a Dragonborn player character can only use it once per rest. As a monster, I'll probably give it some kind of a recharge roll so that it can do it a couple of times in the fight potentially. But I don't want to go much past that because our players don't have a lot in the way of hit points. So we're gonna stick with something along those lines. Hey, Panic Roll, how's it going? Thanks very much for joining. Good to see you. We're just we're getting into the nitty gritty like creature building portion of the stream. Oh, sorry, Krasis is Krasis. Krasis. At least I assume that's how you pronounce it. That's how I'm pronouncing it. We're just gonna roll with it. All right, so let's put up that encounter document again. So I started with just a basic description so I didn't forget the main points for the monster. I think in this particular case, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to snag the description, like the stat block for the Category 1 Krasis, and I'm just going to run with that. I think it's kind of perfect. It's meant to be modular, so to speak. Might as well make full use of it. All right. Page 210. All right, so I'm just tossing that in there for a quick, just a reference for me to use if I want to look at it again. So the cool thing about the Krasis, sorry, I don't know why I'm looking off and to my right there. The cool thing about the Krasis is that they've got a decent armor class. They don't have a ton of hit points, so it's not like they're going to be slogging away at this thing forever. It's got a multi-attack, so it can attack with a bite and its claws. We're going to give it wings, and we're going to give it the lightning ability. I mean, this thing is going to be pretty hardcore. Got some other fun stuff we can give it. Oh, it's also, I forgot I said it was poisonous, so it's going to have poison. So we're just piling stuff on there, aren't we? All right. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set that there so that I can read it. And AC 15. Whoop. Hit points 19. Speed 30 feet. And a fly speed of 30 feet as well because of the wings. Strength 16. Dex 15. Con 14. Int 2. Wisdom 13. Charisma 8. So they don't look very pretty, and they're not very smart, but they'll still kill you dead. And really, that's what you want in a crazy Eldritch Horror, right? So, perception score is 11. It doesn't have any other special skills, saving throws, or anything like that. It is amphibious, so it can. Well, no, that's from the Krasis perspective. This is meant to be more of a horror, so we're gonna take that little trait out. So it's got multi-attack. Horror makes one attack with its bite and 1 with its claws. Actually, we said that it's got claws and 1 with its stinger. So, claws. +5 to hit. I don't need to put all that in there, just +5. Melee range. 1d10 plus 3 piercing damage. I'm actually going to change that to slashing damage, because these are the claws. And then the stinger, +5 melee. Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it a 10-foot reach, because it's a stinging tail type of thing. So it's got a reach weapon as far as that goes. And then we're going to make it do 1d6 plus 3 piercing. So, question is, do we want to... Well, let's get the major stuff down first. It's going to be a dex save DC. Let's see. This guy's got +5s there. Let's say DC 12. 2d6 lightning damage on a failed save, or half damage on a successful save. Okay, so that's what we're looking at as far as the stat block for this thing. I do want to make a couple of adjustments. First off, this is a lot of damage, and I mean a lot of damage, for a couple of second-level characters. Because one of our players, specifically Sophia's character, he could knock her out just in one punch, or just in one hit with his claws. Hi, Riley. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for watching. Sorry about that panic roll. Hopefully I didn't ignore that comment for too long. But awesome. Glad she's here learning to run Dungeons and Dragons. All right, so you're welcome. All right, so we want to adjust a few things. So I'm actually going to drop this down. It's a D8 plus 3. Still has the potential to drop Sophia in one shot if I roll really high on the damage roll. I'm actually going to drop the strength bonus down on this guy as well. The dex I think I'll keep where it is. I'm not too worried about that. I think I might add one extra hit die of hit points. So it's a D8. Half a D8 is 4, plus 1 is 5, plus 2 is 7. Yeah, I'm going to toss another 7 hit points on this guy. Just because I don't want it to be one of those things where, like, one good hit just kills him outright. So I want there to be a couple rounds of combat going on. So a couple rounds of combat without, like, without threatening to kill our players immediately. Like, if it goes badly for them, I'm not going to worry too much about it. We can always roll with it, but, you know, I don't want to make it kind of a guaranteed loss for them. And then, all right, just tossing in those stat modifiers so I don't have to look them up later. And, okay, so I think this stinger here should be a d6 plus 2 piercing damage, plus 1d4 poison damage. And actually, I'm going to make it a saving throw. And the target must make a DC 12 con save or suffer an additional 1d4 poison damage. All right. Cool. And then this is going to be recharge on a roll of a 6. So a recharge ability is something that actually came out of D&D 4th edition. It's a cool mechanic that I'm a big fan of, where monsters will have an ability that they can use occasionally. And so basically at the start of their turn, every round, you're going to roll a d6. If you roll one of the numbers listed on the recharge ability, then the ability recharges and the monster can use it again. You know what I forgot to look at is what is the area of effect here? It's lightning, so it's a 30-foot line. That's important because if the monster uses its lightning breath while two characters are standing, right behind each other, then they might both take the lightning damage. Okay, awesome. I'm glad to know that I wasn't ignoring you too much there, Panic Roll. Thank you. And yeah, Casher, I want it to be a bit of a challenge. I don't mind there being a moment where the players go, "Holy cow, what is going on here?" But since it's kind of the plan to be the first fight of the game, I definitely don't want them to be like, "Well, we're definitely gonna die." That would not be fun. Plus, it would mean all this work we've done was for nothing. So, all right, so that's what we're working with here. So he's got a couple of attacks that he can make. Let's just specify that that's 5 feet. Let's say this is melee. Also, and that's 10 feet. All right. So, all in all, not much on as far as monsters go. He doesn't have a bunch of crazy abilities. He's got a fly speed, which he's going to be making great use of. Now, for a lot of players or for a lot of parties, a creature that flies kind of by default this early on can be actually really difficult to deal with. Because most of them will have maybe like a crossbow or a bow. If they're wizards, they might have some cantrips that they can hit with at range. But it poses a little bit of a problem for people who are really melee oriented, like if there's a barbarian who didn't take any ranged weapons or something like that, it can be an issue. Luckily, all of our heroes in this particular game are all spellcasters with cantrips available, and so they can attack at range with those abilities. So it's not something I'm too concerned with. Although, hold on a second. I want to take a quick look at Sophia's abilities because I want to make sure she has some cantrips that she can make good use of in this fight. She actually has one ability or one spell that's really awesome. If she manages to pull it off on the enemy, then this actually could end the fight potentially. But she's got Thorn Whip, which you can use to actually grab an enemy and pull it closer. I don't know if she's going to want to do that or not. She can mold earth, shape water, druidcraft, and shillelagh. Okay, so she's not going to be like awesome at ranged combat, but she does have a couple options to defend herself if need be. And this actually could be that could really be a game changer. Let me just take a quick look at what this does exactly. Choose a 5-foot unoccupied space on the ground that you can see within range. A medium hand made from compacted soil rises there and reaches for one creature you can see within 5 feet of it. Target must make a strength saving throw. On a failed save, the target takes 2d6 bludgeoning damage and is restrained for the spell's duration. As an action, you can cause the hand to crush the restrained target who must make a strength saving throw. It takes 2d6 bludgeoning. Wow, yeah, okay. So the monster gets repeated strength saving throws to try to get out, but I mean, that could actually really negate this entire thing. Like if the creature decides to land, or if Sophia is really clever and she waits until the thing is like flying near like the side of a tower or something like that, she could theoretically have it burst out of the tower and grab the thing in mid-flight. The spell says it's a space on the ground, but I'm a little, you know, I don't know. I might be willing to fudge that a little bit for the sake of drama and cinematics, but we'll see how it pans out. If she tries that, I'll roll with it. If not, no big deal. Okay. So she's got some stuff that she can do, and does she have a bow? I forget. She's got javelins. All right, so she's got some options. Anyways, so now that we've looked at that, and we've kind of built out the monster itself, I'm pretty happy with that. Again, it's got the potential to really mess him up, but what's life without some risks, right? So I think we're going to call that part done and dusted. However, I need to plan out the encounter area. So for right now, I'm just going to list out a couple of traits that I think are going to be important. So first off, it's on a bridge. Should have some wide avenues. Or should have a wide avenue down the center. It's also kind of on a... well, actually, hold on. Let me pull up the description of this particular area. So it's on an area... The bridge itself is called Dead Bridge Chasm, or that's what the bridge is spanning over, I guess I should say. So I want to check and see if there is anything special about that bridge. So, Dead Bridge Chasm. Oh, I guess technically the bridge doesn't... No, there is a bridge that spans across it. Looks like it's going to one of the other precincts, actually. Well, anyways. So, Dead Bridge Chasm. A gaping opening in the ground dominates the precinct and is lined with mossy stairs and fungal blooms. Interesting. Dead Bridge Chasm serves as an entrance to the Golgari's Undercity realm and their guild hall, Kurozda. The area smells of decomposition, an odor that grows particularly intense on hot days. Ew. Many crawl make their homes in the walls that line the cavernous descent, and Devkaran elves come up to the surface through this passage to trade on Tin Street. There also is Benzer's Bridge, but that's mostly going outside the 10th district. Alright, well, it does look like it connects to Wayport either way, and Wayport is kind of this, it's like this giant warehouse district that is fairly affluent. There's a lot of trade that comes through here and stuff like that. So I feel like we could probably... Casher says it's not going to ruin the whole encounter if you fudge things a little to let a player do something interesting or cool. I agree with you. The rules are definitely there for a reason, and generally speaking, I like to try to stick to the rules as much as possible, but they really should just be guidelines. There will be situations where you're like, you know what? Technically, you're not allowed to use the spell like that, but that's just cool. So yeah, let's go for it. And that's the way you want D&D to roll. You want people to be able to think outside the box, not just from the perspective of an ordinary mundane life, but also think outside the box with the things their characters are capable of. And if you're constantly being like, no, the rules technically don't allow you to do that really awesome thing, then people stop trying to do awesome things. And then you just get people going, I move 5 feet, I swing my sword, okay, next turn. And that's not a fun encounter. That gets really old really fast. So, it's a bridge. There should also be... I'm thinking like along the sides of the bridge, there should be obstructions of some sort. I'm trying to think of like what there would be on a highly traveled trade route. So there might be like areas where people can lock down their carts. Because I'm thinking like, just like today, I'm sure traffic is an issue on these highly traveled routes. And since everyone knows that you don't hang out near Dead Bridge Chasm at night because crazy, scary things show up and eat you or drag you off into the depths, like if someone wasn't able to get across the bridge before night fell, it would make sense that the city would make accommodations for them to like lock their cart down and then, get someplace safe. So I'm thinking... by bike racks. I'm just going to put that in quotations. Basically, by bike racks and similar structures for people to secure their cargo overnight when/if necessary. Maybe add some like benches. trying to think of some other terrain features that people could theoretically use as like cover, or just to kind of alter the way movement works. So yeah, we'll go with that for now. Yeah, I was gonna say maybe some potted plants, but this doesn't seem like the place for that. So these should be benches, stone benches built into the stone of the bridge with magic. So then from there should be some high railings. Can't just push something over the edge. I feel like they probably wouldn't have railings that are waist high, because then everybody but a halfling would theoretically be tumbling off. So some high railings along the edges can block, can provide partial cover against melee attacks. Whoops. Maybe through the railing. So if the creature's like trying to fly past them and like rake at them with its claws, but it's on the other side of the railing, it's going to suffer a penalty. They get a bonus to their defense, so that it makes it a little bit harder for the thing to just kind of, if you'll excuse the term, kind of cheese out the encounter by flying around. It gives them a reason to maybe want to bait it to come at them through the railing, but it's just an extra little detail that will hopefully be made use of. So let's do that. I might even have like short watchtowers at either end of the bridge and in the middle, allowing the players to get an elevated position. So basically, these are just kind of think like lifeguard towers at the beach. They don't consist of much. They're just, stone, wooden stands, whatever they're going to be, with a little like guard shack thing up at the top. And during busy days, you've got soldiers stationed in these things, kind of keeping an eye out, surveying the crowd, making sure that nobody's trying to steal stuff. So I feel like those would be good for the players to potentially either take cover under, or they could use it to get kind of elevated positions. If they're smart about this, they will try to bait the creature out onto the bridge, because Gark did mention that the thing has a tendency to like break into houses and carry off smaller people. Casher says, I wonder if there could be barricades maybe halfway down. If the bridge is a main route, it might need to be blocked off if needed. That's not a bad idea. I like the idea of barricades. What else might be kind of cool is if there were some like hoists or like loading rigs that maybe have some netting kind of stationed periodically throughout it, where the players could try to make use of that to tangle the thing up briefly and pull it out of the air. So I kind of like cargo hoists slash not winches. What's the word I'm looking for? A hoist, winch, pulley. I don't know, something like that. With heavy rope nets for moving loads from one cart wagon to another. Can use the netting to tangle up the creature. Okay, so I have to figure out exactly like what they would have to use to do that. But I think it's kind of a cool idea where, if they get smart, if they plan ahead, they can make use of some of these terrain features to hinder this particular monster. So we're gonna go with that. I'll have to fiddle with it some more between now and the next session, but I'll probably have something ready as far as like a map goes for next Wednesday, so we can kind of talk about the different terrain features and figure out what that's going to look like. But I think that would work. It allows for some kind of dynamic movement, requires them to kind of plan ahead if they want to make full use of the terrain features that are available. But you know, I in theory I like the idea. I just have to make sure they all fit together nicely. So for now, though, that's kind of what we need for this encounter. I don't think we need to build much more into that. So what we're going to do next is we're going to jump over to the NPC document, and we're going to scroll down a little bit. So I did make some notes about some of the NPCs that the players ran into, just because I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anybody. So we've got Trillin. He's the half-elf male that works for Liuda. He's the one who delivered the message. Um, he's kind of a background character. I don't think we need much more about him. I hate to say he's throwaway, but he's not super important to the plot. Gark, on the other hand, he was providing some good information to Yuzeth in the bar. And so I just made some notes about like the place that he runs called the Turbine. He was in the Is It, but got ousted because an experiment of his killed a bunch of people. Although he considers it to be a success, he just his experiment just happened to kill the wrong people, I guess. Um, and then he has a hunting party that harvests organs from these creatures, but it's relatively risky business. Not only because the monsters themselves will kill you and eat you, but also because technically it's illegal to go out and do that. So that's not something that the players have necessarily really talked about. Hopefully, they will take that into consideration when they plan out how they're gonna approach the situation. But we'll see what happens. If they do run into some trouble, I actually have a plan for that, where we can make use of our Boros encounter list here. So we could probably throw a couple lizard folk and a soldier in there, or if they really are causing trouble, maybe it gets a little bit more difficult. Um, so yeah, they might run into a patrol in the middle of the night as they're kind of sneaking around on the chasm or on the bridge. So we'll have to see how that plays out. But we've got it ready to go, so it's easy to adapt if need be. So yeah, and then we've got the Selesnya guard captain. She was a female elf that kind of knew about Sophia's character, Ulala. They really decided to go ahead and give me a couple of difficult names to pronounce. And this particular guard captain has interacted with Ulala twice now. So we should probably give her a name. I'm thinking give her a rank because she's technically in the Selesnya Guard. And then I need names for female elves. Now, these are from the Tolkien series, which isn't a bad thing. Just, I specifically asked for elven female names. Why are you starting with boys? Well, whatever. Elvish girl names. Da, da, da. I like this one. Aradel. I think that's how you'd pronounce that. If you're a Tolkien nerd and that's not the right way to pronounce it, don't come after me. Just correct me. I'm cool with that, but don't take it personally. So let's go with Aradel. That's a good name. Ooh, Kasher, I totally missed your recommendations there. Shastri or Invara. Invara is kind of cool. I'm gonna actually put those names aside and then make use of them for other characters, because there will inevitably be other NPCs that I have to come up with names for off the top of my head, and it'll be nice to have a couple names kind of, up my sleeve. So I added that stuff in there. I got a name for her, so that's good. Female elf. I'm gonna change the format of this so I don't lose guard. Selesnya guard. All right. So yeah, that's all we kind of need there. Now, another thing that's kind of important for these kinds of games where you've got sort of like intrigue going on is you want to actually keep track of what your players actually know or what they've suspected or whatever. So player info. What do they know? So they know about the three people being blackmailed. Blackmail is one word. There we go. They know about. They spoke to Milosh and know what he did. Has to deliver a list of Selesnya officers' names. To the blackmailer by the next full moon. We didn't really specify how long that was in the future. Let's go ahead and arbitrarily say it is 5 days. Okay. Let's see. Heard rumors of, or well, not necessarily rumors, but just heard talk about Krenko, and I don't think they really got any information about him though. Love making up names. I may have a spreadsheet. Nice. See, I try to be organized, but I'm not that organized. Says the guy who a couple episodes ago actually went over a whole spreadsheet that broke down, number of spells per level from levels 1 to 20 for all the spellcasting classes. Okay, fine. Spreadsheets are cool. I admit it. I'm a nerd. I get Panic Roll. I get the feeling that people like Kashra, who really love spreadsheets, never really get enough time with their spreadsheets. You know what I mean? It's like when they're 80 years old, they're going to look back and go, man, I wish I'd done more pivot tables. And they're going to mean it. They're going to say that completely unironically because they love spreadsheets. Hey, Creative Play and Podcast. Awesome. How's it going? Thanks for joining us. Spreadsheets. All right. So they heard some talk about Krenko. Oh, you know what? I just remembered a little detail that I let drop in the game. Again, I was ad-libbing. Claimed he was Krenko's brother. Now, whether or not he actually is Krenko's brother, I mean, if I said it, I'll make it true. It's fine. But I think the way I'm going to play it, because it's kind of awfully coincidental that he happened to run into a goblin who's brothers with this dude. The way I'm going to run it is basically the idea is goblins typically have a couple dozen brothers and sisters, so it's not like they're particularly close. It's more of a coincidence of fate than it is anything else. So all right. So I'm going to kind of dig myself out of that hole, kind of. So we'll see what happens. Let's see here. We've got those three. Were there any other NPCs that cropped up? So Stripe, Andrew's character, he was writing some poetry in a couple different places. He interacted with a few people. He dropped off a package for Ludmilla, but there weren't any significant NPCs that he interacted with. Nobody that I think he really got into true conversation with, got a name from, or anything like that. the most significant interaction he had was threatening the one guy at Wayport and getting him to tell him where the guy he was delivering the package to was located. So nothing there. For Sophia, she went and talked to Milosh, and she talked to Corporal Aradel. So that's it. Cool. I didn't make too much work for myself by introducing a bunch of NPCs. I've done that in the past. Otherwise, they have not come into contact with anybody else other than Liuda and Milosh. They still haven't run into this individual yet. I just realized that we did have a player who was tuned in briefly. I got to make sure that they aren't still looking and seeing all of my secrets. So I don't think they're still here, but just to be on the safe side. I can close that. I can close that. Yeah. Wow, this hour has like flown by. We're already at 53 minutes. So I don't think they know anything else about. I don't think they know anything else about the situation at hand. Sorry, I just had to like kind of rack my brain for a minute there. So no, they don't know anything else about the main story yet. They're kind of getting distracted with this little side quest here, but I'm okay with that. It should give them the opportunity to kind of like scout out the area, maybe try to figure out how to bait the thing in. I'm gonna give them. I think I'm gonna give them the players 2 days / 1 night to gather information and plan to hunt the creature. Information. All right. So I'm just going to give them a couple of days, basically on the second night from where we come back in to play. That's where they are going to have to figure out. That's when they're going to actually confront the creature. How do I spell Milosh? It's M-L Clay. I'm sorry, Clay. Yes, the Clay is silent. Brooklyn Nine-Nine reference, classic. I think it's actually episode 1, like the very first episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Awesome show if you've never seen it. It's a cop drama. Well, it's a cop comedy on Fox, and all those things don't matter. It's just a fantastic show. So you should watch it. Yeah. Statue. Okay. All right. Cool. So, encounter building always takes longer than I expect it to, but I kind of did some, tidying up, some housework, if you will, kind of making sure that I have all of my notes ready to go. Getting into the next session or the next behind the screens episode next Wednesday, I'll actually sit down and I will figure out what I kind of expect to have happen in the next couple of sessions. It never hurts to plan ahead. The players may go completely different directions. As a matter of fact, I kind of count on it. But if I build something that doesn't get used immediately, I can always recycle it and bring it into play later. So, having said that, if anybody has any questions, feel free to toss them out there. I am going to close a couple of things down. I don't need this extra window anymore. Okay. So we still have not figured out when the next actual session of the Ravnica D&D game will be. Once we do, we will announce it on Instagram and such. So just keep an eye out there. If you would like to follow us on Instagram, we're at ravensdale.publishing. So just like you can see up here at the top of the little banner thingy, just right up there, Ravensdale Publishing. But it's ravensdale.publishing on Instagram, so you can follow us there to check us out. We do a bunch of other stuff. Monday nights, Samson and I. Samson is one of our players. He's also the artist for our board game that we're working on getting out there. He and I do a comic book that we write live every Monday night, so you can tune in and check that out. we've got some stuff planned for that that should be pretty cool. And yeah, Sarah and I are looking at possibly doing some streaming of different video games here in the near future. So, again, if you follow along with us, you'll hear about all that. In the meantime, thanks very much for tuning in. We are coming to the end of the hour, and I don't want to bore people as I kind of hem and haw over what I'm trying to do. Hello, Ayla. Cats, man. So yeah, we're gonna cut it short and sweet, and then next week we will continue on, and we will actually plan out some stuff that's not immediately surrounding this monster, but are actually focused on the main plot in question. So that's the idea. I will stay logged in for a minute or two in case anybody has any questions, anybody wants to chat about stuff, but I don't have anything significant to talk about with regards to this. So yeah, I'm going to close these out. I am going to pull up, actually. Did I close that monster manual? I did. So I'm going to pull something up real quick. Because... Pardon me if I just hum random nonsense every once in a while. Alright, so let's take a quick look at this. There should be... I'm thinking a Chimera? No, that's definitely too high level. Good girl, Ayla. Yeah. Maybe I'm thinking of another book. I know for a fact that there is an enemy that throws lightning. Oh, is it a Behir? I think it might be a Behir. Hold on. Taking forever to load. Whoops. Went a little bit too far. A little bit too far. Yep, Lightning Breath. Here we go. Lightning Breath, 5 to 6 recharge, a line of lightning 20 feet long, 5 feet wide. Each creature in that line must make a DC 16 saving throw, taking 12d10 lightning damage. Granted, this is a CR, challenge rating 11 creature, so it is a pretty nasty one, but it's always good to kind of get an idea as to whether or not this is, in the right vein. So yeah. Yeah, I think we're right on track. We don't want it to recharge too often. We don't want the DC to save against it to be too high, and we don't want the damage to be anywhere near that high. So yeah, this will work. Worked out pretty well. All right. Have a good night. Thanks very much for tuning in, everybody. I will see you next Monday if you tune in for the comic stream, or next Wednesday for another one of these. Have a great week. See you next time.